Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today we're going to make this fun floral card and we're going to add a little twist. We're going to turn this into a shaker card. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm using my dies. These are the square double stitch dies from Art Impressions, and I'm taking that largest one. And for paper I'm using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. I'm running that through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. Now for stamps today, I'm going to be using the Art Impressions Sweet Wishes. This is from the mini trifold collection, and you can see that there's a coordinating die. So we're going to be using this wreath, and I'm using my EK Success anti-static powder tool just to take any static out of the paper there, because we are going to be doing some embossing. And then I'm using my Versamark watermark ink pad to do the stamping. So I've placed that in my mini Misty stamp positioner, and I'm going to ink that up a couple of times. So for embossing powder, I'm using some Ranger Gold embossing powder, and I'm just going to sprinkle that on and tap away any excess. Then I'll make sure my heat tool is nice and hot before I go to the paper, and then I'll do my embossing. And you can see that as it changes color, it gets nice and shiny. So if you see any dark areas, you probably want to go back over those. The embossed area will look nice and shiny, and that gives us that beautiful gold embossed image. And this will make it a lot easier to do our coloring as well. So I'm letting that cool off just a second or two before I do my coloring. And I'm using lilac and violet to do my coloring. And these are the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens. And then I'm also going to be using my blender pen. And I'm just checking to make sure that it's clean. So you just want to scribble it on your scrap paper until it goes clear, and then you'll know that it's clean. So to do my coloring here, I'm starting with that lighter color. Then I'll add a little bit of that darker tone and then pull that out towards the tips of the petals here. And you can add a little bit more darker shadows here and there, more in the center of the flowers. And there, I'm just trying to get you a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing here. And with that embossed image, you don't have to worry too much about staying in the lines. It's really easy to do once you've got this embossed. So I'll just show you a couple more here, and then I did all the rest the exact same way. Now to do the leaves, I'm using mid green and olive green. And I love this green color with the purples. I just think it looks so pretty with the olive green tones and the purple colors. So again, I'll start with that lighter color, add a little bit of shadow with the darker colors, and then pull that out towards the tips of these leaves. And I did that for all of the rest of the leaves as well, and I'll just show you a few more here. Now you could use a water brush here as well, and since you do have it embossed, it'd be really easy to do some watercoloring here. So I'm using the packaging just to see what I'm coloring. It's a little hard to determine, so just grab the packaging and it'll show you exactly if it's a leaf or a bud or a flower that you're coloring in. Now I'm going to grab that die that cuts out the center of this wreath, and I'm just trying to find out exactly where that lines up. Then I'll tape that down with a little bit of purple tape, and I'll run that through the die cutting machine. Once that's die cut, I'm going to take that bow from that mailbox. So that's the same Sweet Wishes set that we used before. And I'm just going to be using the bow, so I don't need to stamp this whole thing. I've gone back to the Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I'm just prepping that stamp just a little bit with my finger, just rubbing it a little bit so that it's not quite as sticky. And then I'll press that out. And you could also prep the paper here again with your anti-static powder tool. And then I'll go ahead and apply that gold embossing powder again. And I will list all the products I've used today down below and also on my blog. So I'll heat set that. Now I'm using light blue to color in this bow. So I thought this would be a pretty combination with the purple and the green. And I'm just going to keep the edges of that bow the lightest. And you can come back in with a little bit more of that same color to add a little bit more shadowing. So now that that's all colored in, I'm using my detail scissors to cut around this, and I am following the line. You do want to be careful when you're cutting around embossing because you don't want it to chip off or break off as you're doing your cutting. So just go carefully around these edges. And then when you're done, what I like to do is heat set that again just to seal any of that embossing back in place, just in case I nicked it with the scissors. That heat setting will just seal it back into place. Now I've got my Lawn Fawn clear acetate, and we'll be using this to create our shaker card, and I'm using my Nuvo surface sweep brush just to take off any lint off of that acetate. Now I've got my 1/4-inch score tape, and I'll attach this to the back of this panel. Now, if you use your bone folder to press out your score tape, it makes it a lot easier to take the backings off of these. So if you're having any trouble removing the backing, just try that little tip. Just press it really well with your bone folder first. So now you can see we've got that acetate in the window there. So now I've got my milled lavender Distress Oxide ink pad, and I'm going to go all the way around the edges of this square, just to add a little bit of a shadow here, like a little halo around the edges here. And that'll just bring your eye into the center here. And I am using my We Are Memory Keepers silicone mat to do this. And that holds that ink pad in place while I do my inking, and also kind of holds the paper in place as well. And it cleans off really well with just some water. So now you can see I have that little shadow around the edges there. Now I've got my Hero Hues premium cardstock, and this is called Arctic, and it's a 100-pound cardstock. And I've gone ahead and cut a piece 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. And I'll set that aside for now. And then I wanted to cut a second white square, the same size as that first one that we cut, so the largest die. And then for my sentiment, I'm using Sweet Wishes to You from that same Sweet Wishes stamp set. I'm going to take that white panel and place it in my Mini Misty, and then I'm going to take the wreath and place that right over the top, just so I can line up my sentiment right in the center of that wreath. So now I can go ahead and remove that top panel and do my stamping, and I'm using the VersaFine Onyx black ink to do my stamping. And I'll stamp that a couple of times. So now I want to create the shaker card element. So I'm going to double up my Scotch foam mounting tape. And then I'll just cut this in half. And I'm using my Tim Holtz titanium scissors to do that. It just makes it really easy to cut these long panels. So now I can go ahead and place that tape around this opening. Now you do want to make sure there's no gaps in the tape. You want to butt that piece right up against that the other piece that's already there. You don't want any gaps in the tape right around this opening, because otherwise your little shaker elements will fall right out. So just take a little time to get these positioned properly. And now you can add some foam tape all around the edges. So once that's all set, I want to add my shaker elements. So you can see those two will line up just like that. So now adding my shaker elements, I'm using this beautiful sequin mix. And this is from Picket Fence Studios, and it's called the Purple People Eater, and I love the name of this. So I'm using my little Nouveau spoon. This is a double-ended spoon here, and I'm just going to scoop out a few of these little sequins. Now, less is more here. You don't want to use too many. If you do, you'll block the words or the sentiment when the card is upright. So I'm just removing a few here. So really, you want to be very conservative here with how many you use. So I'm going to go ahead. Now you can do it like this and flip that panel right over on top, but I decided to pour those right inside that tape, that area of the tape there, and then I'll remove the backing very carefully. And then I can go ahead and lay this square panel right over the top of this panel with the tape on it. And now we know our sentiment will be lined up perfectly. And before I do that, I'm adding a little bit of that anti-static powder right along the inside edges of that tape, just so the sequins don't stick to the inside edges there. So I'll go ahead and line this up. And then you want to press this down really well, again, so that none of your little shaker elements escape from there. So now you can see we have the little shaker portion of our card. So now I'll go ahead and attach this to that Arctic cardstock that we cut earlier. And we had cut that to 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. So that'll leave a nice little border all the way around. Now I've got this bow that we colored in, so I'm going to add a little bit of the Scotch foam mounting tape and pop that up. So once that was all set, I'm going to add a few more of those little sequins here. I'm going to be using my Marvy Jewel Picker and my Nouveau Deluxe adhesive to attach a few little embellishments to the front of the card as well, just to bring some of those sequins to the front. Now I'm using my Wink of Stella glitter pen, and I'm going to go ahead and add some glitter to that bow. Now I've got a standard A2 size top folding card which measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm going to place this on the card just a little bit down from the top of the card. So I wanted to bring a little bit more of the gold in to coordinate with the wreath that we embossed. So I'm using the metallic cardstock from Tim Holtz, and this comes in gold and silver, and that's from the Ideology collection. And what we're going to do is create some stitched strips for the front of our card. So I'm using the two largest dies, and these are from the Art Impressions Rectangle A2 double stitched rectangle dies. And I'm just going to cut this into some strips here. So what I want to do is make sure that these little borders that I'm creating are going to be long enough to go across my card. So at least 4 1/4 inches wide. So what I want to do is take the largest die and the second largest die, and I'm going to tape these together. So I'm using my purple tape to tape these dies together. And that needs to be, like I said, at least as wide as our card. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the first one here. So I'll tape this to my gold metallic cardstock. And then I'll run that through the die cutting machine. And I'm going to do 4 of these for the front panel of my card. So you can see that gives that beautiful double stitch line on the cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and cut another strip of this and die cut the second one. So I'll just tape that down and run that through the die cutting machine as well. So once I die cut all my strips, I'm using my 1/8 inch score tape to attach these to my card. And I did only die cut 3 at first, but I die cut a 4th one later on. I just thought it needed one more. So you'll want to die cut 4 altogether. So I'm adding that score tape to the back of each of these little strips here. And don't worry about the ends, we're going to be cutting those away. So now what I want to do is I'm going to line that first one right along that blue cardstock there, right? Butt it right up along that edge. And then I'll separate these maybe about 1/8 of an inch apart down the card here. But you can do whatever you like here. So I'm going to put that one at the bottom, and then I'll put this one right between those two. And then I'll just snip away any excess there. And I just thought this gold metallic paper just brought so much to the card. I just thought it brought out the gold in the embossed wreath as well. So then here's where I did decide to add one more strip to the top of the card. So again, I'm butting it up right against that blue cardstock. And then I'll just cut away that excess. So let's take a look at the finished card, and we've got this beautiful shaker card with all those beautiful purple lilac colors, and then that beautiful metallic on there. I love that gold embossing. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.